I think we are getting ready to start. Yes.
Okay.
Alexandra, can we start sharing the presentation?
Yeah, just a second.
Super, thanks. I think we can start right now. And first of all, together with Corina, my colleague, we want to say that we are happy to be also this year at the ABSL conference. Unfortunately, we are not that happy to be online, still online. We would have hoped to be together with you in a room, even if with masks, but still, still to have a physical presence and interaction. But that's it. We are here. And as I said, and maybe you know me from last year's, my name is Maria Flora. I'm the key client director within GLL, and together with Corina, we are here to talk about also some good stuff that maybe the pandemic brought into our lives, and also how this technology, practically being online and talking to you right now, it's helping, but it's also just shaping the future of real estate and how this is changing and how it's and what are the impacts and what are the expectancy of this real estate in the next years. I think that and I think we can change and go to the first slide.
Maria, maybe it will be
Please, Corina.
Yeah, maybe it will be good to mention that anytime during the presentation, when questions arise, you can use the chat box to direct your unclarities or curiosities, let's say. And also that we are here, this interaction between us is brought to you by as an ABSL event.
And feel free, we will stop from time to time during the presentation to be able to take questions from you and to answer them if you have any, because it's nice to stop in between and maybe within a clear subject to stop and develop more. We have only 1 hour here, but on this subject, I think we can talk at least an entire day. So we will focus and just give you some hints about what the real estate would look like and what is the technology bringing in all the areas of the real estate, and not talking only about the client spaces, but also in buildings, in your city, in the way you look at any other building, at a lease, at a facility company, and so on. So all the arms of the real estate, or the implication of the real estate, how are those shaped by the real estate? And at the end, practically, we will talk about why that's so important and why we are focusing so much on technology and why we are looking at this shaping of real estate, because it's all aligned with practically what we are living now, and the climate changes, the environment, the clear objective of the European Union and the entire world to reduce pollution and carbon footprint. So all these are linked together, and this is what we want to explain to you. And I think it's you know already, and you are facing it in your day-to-day business. But it's also important to be pioneers in this field, and to tell you what are the trends outside Romania, because maybe here, as in other domains, the technologies, the trends are coming slower, but it's nice for us to look at what is happening in the west part of Europe or in other countries, and to try to implement it as fast as possible in our country, and to have an open mind on it. So again, let's start with the first slide. Yeah, I was talking about at the beginning, just first slide, yeah, but it's just a little bit to start here, because I saw this nice building, and I think it's from Milan, if I'm not mistaken, and this is a clear when I saw it, it was in construction, and they were just starting to plant all these plants there, and I was looking, wow, this is so strange. It's amazing, but it's so strange. But practically, it just represents the future. We have to look at real estate with different eyes. What we are used to, it's not anymore valid. And we had an opportunity, I would call it, because again, we have to look, and I'm a positive and optimistic person, as the people that know me consider. Pandemic, it's also bringing this opportunity to practically reshape what we construct and what we use in our buildings, and to look at the technology that we can implement, because technology is a larger part of our lives today. We wouldn't have imagined this 2 years ago, having this conference on Zoom, but here we are doing it for for several years now, and this is a challenge, and this is a way for us to look at it, and practically everything was accelerated. Yeah, so Zoom existed. To enter a room without touching the handle existed. Yeah, the sensor existed, but they weren't as used as they could have been. Now, because of this pandemic, all these trends are just accelerating, and everybody's looking into implementing as much as possible the technology in their lives, their buildings, their cities, and so on, and all the aspects of our life. Let's look a little bit on the next slide on how to develop a successful roadmap for the technology adaptation. So first of all, we need inside, and I think with every project is the same, we need to look what we want to obtain from this technology, what is our strategy, and how to do it, then to find the right solution, to find the person that actually can deliver us what we can, then to integrate it in our company, our building, our lease, our space, and then to interact everything. We can look and we say, for example, we had all these cases, and I'm giving examples now from office space, but we can imagine this in any other domain, and I think you also can. You can put a very nice smart tablet outside the meeting room, and you will find the producer for the tablet, but then you need to interact it with your Outlook, with the phones and everything. So everything has to be well thought from the beginning in order to actually obtain the maximum result that we wanna get. But it's, as I said, this presentation, and going forward a little bit, it's not only about what you can do in your space. It's also about, can we go on the next slide? And I will let Corina talk a little bit, but what we want to have with this presentation in the first part of the presentation is to understand that this technology and their implication in real estate and in shaping the real estate, again, it doesn't only means that we have nice new technology to implement in our office space or in our buildings, but it's much more than that. And we can look at the city level because that also impacts our our real estate. We can look to the portfolio level, meaning as we were discussing, first of all, your space and the building, and going forward in the building level, there are so many other things that we have to consider and technology that we can implement in order to get a better life. And as you will see at the end, because this is the goal that we want to go forward, it's how we can diminish our carbon footprint with all this together. And that will be a separate subject at the end, but practically this is the goal. We want to look at this and how we can find new technology on all these areas in order at the end just to be in trend with what is happening in EU, what are the requirements, environmental requirements, social governance, all this together. And what is the final objective? I think we will be old by then, but still maybe our children will benefit from a better world with less heat in the summers. Corina?
Okay.
Please, so, I don't know if you have any other question at the beginning of the introduction and what is our goal here in the here today. And if you had, so please, it's one of the moments when we stop and we can take some questions.
You can use anyhow the chat box anytime, and we will be able to see if there is any interaction and stop and try to answer your questions. There is nothing for now, so I think we can move on. We can get a little bit into details. Turning to the next slide. Okay, so the sustainable buildings and places, there is mounting pressure from all the stakeholders in the real estate industry to contribute to low carbon and more resilient buildings and cities, as Maria said. With building operations contributing 28% of global GHG emissions, managing energy performance in existing buildings will be essential in meeting net zero carbon commitments from investors, tenants, landlords, and governments. So energy systems able to integrate renewable energy sources and new design techniques will be essential to achieving this net zero carbon by 2050. Some key considerations to take account from, it would be this path to net zero carbon to be assumed by every one of us, to create integrated standardized performance and utility measurement information across the portfolio, and to realize that design and construction processes are critical to achieving emission goals and creating more resilient buildings.
Yeah, if you wanna just to discuss a little bit here on each slide, and you will get the presentation at the end of, you will have details about each of the sectors in the big categories, sustainable buildings and places, for example. You have detailed kind of new technology that can be implemented. We will not stop now in this presentation talking on all of them and what it's a microgrid provider and so on and so forth. But in any case, if you need and if you want more details from us in regards with any of the technologies in the design and construction, for example, Corina is here and she can help on that. And for all the others, we have our consultants at the European level that can give you more details to implement. What we want to do today is just to open a little bit the mind in looking at all these categories that are part of real estate and what we can achieve if we implement new technology and if we look attentively to them.
Okay. We can move on to the next slide. So urban governance is under increasing strain as it seeks to meet the multiple challenges of rapid urban transformation. So changes to work and workplaces, changes to lifestyle preferences, and the increasing emphasis on inclusivity and health, combined with the urgency to transition towards more climate resilient low carbon systems have the potential to radically alter how our cities and buildings are used. So city governments should increasingly look to technology and data platforms to support their transition and to meet the demands for greater agility, flexibility, and more hybrid uses. So some key to consider would be that we have to keep a watching brief on new government technology initiatives, and also that the rise of advanced platform technologies will put pressure on city governments. Yes, Maria?
Yeah, here it's talking about Romania and urban governance and planning and all this nice concept that we will find in north part of Europe. I think it's we look at it and say like, oh yeah, right here. But the reality is that at a certain point we will be obliged to look at it. And cities needs to do something about integrating new technology in the city. And if we see small cases like we have in Cluj, where they put a system to track the buses, and you know exactly when they're coming, and they have tracing the traffic and so on, so they can actually be part of a community, and they have an app for Cluj in which they can communicate things that are important to the citizens. So these are first steps that we see very few in Romania, but you have to imagine that there are much more, as you will see on this slide, and you can look at it, that are happening nowadays in the cities, and all these are connected to the fact that we can't not realize that we are part of the city. People do want something else from their city, and when you are building something in the city needs to give you the right place and the right rules in order to build something that it's really sustainable and it's really going towards the path that the real estate is going nowadays in the entire European Union.
Okay, we can move on. So all in all, healthy places and portfolios, because the pandemic has highlighted the need for healthier and better design and more human spaces. The last year has, almost 2 years now, in fact, also seen increasing experimentation with touchless technologies and automation to reduce infection risks and improve confidence, as well as new tools like robotic cleaners. As you said, maybe here in Romania, not all the technologies are already assumed or even taken into consideration, but we are hoping and we are driving to a future where everyone goes to. So some key considerations relating to that is that the pandemic, in fact, has provided an opportunity to reimagine the built environment and workplaces to support health and wellness and comfort and productivity. Also, that expectations of buildings and places in terms of health and wellness are higher than they have ever been. And that with the growth in hybrid and work from anywhere strategies, healthy places considerations will need to evolve beyond office-based initiatives and to support employees wherever they may be working. We can move on to the
just again a key consideration here, because we are talking about again the pandemic and the technology, so there are again a lot of them, but I think if we look to a very simple case that I'm seeing in all my clients' spaces in Bucharest, is you imagine, and one of my clients called it pulleria, meaning a chicken farm. So a majority of our spaces in Bucharest and in Cluj and in Timișoara, and this is a simple example, were like very crowded, desk after desk after desk after desk. But with the pandemic, now we see that everybody wants space, and everything is changing. And for example, to get space, one of my big clients, it's technology-wise, is like, okay, desks are separately. Yeah, we put them at 1.5 meters, but it's not only about that. Who is coming to work? And then we have the technology, because they are 2,000 employees. So they need an app in order to get into the office and to reserve a seat. So these things were not happening 2 years ago. And we see the changes at the level of the design, but we see the changes in the technology. And all these are just good things at the end that are happening, because we like more space, we like technology, and unfortunately or not, some people really like working from home.
Okay, it would be good to mention also that, as you said, there is a lot of uncertainty right now. We have know-how, we have expertise, but together with our clients, we're trying to find the best bespoke solution, because every client has its specifics that has to be taken into consideration when building the solution. Okay.
That's your specialty, workplace of the future. Yeah. So
yeah,
tell us, what are you doing?
My treat, yeah, workplace. So workplace of the future, in fact, because the pandemic has advanced the digital transformation of businesses, and the workplace is now truly boundaryless. Employees expecting a safe, productive, and seamless experience wherever they work. So to achieve these aims, companies will need to find ways to enable hybrid work, empower and engage employees wherever they are, and manage variable and dynamic occupancy patterns. So we have to consider that aligning the technology strategy with business and portfolio goals, it's a must. We have to define the metrics that matter, because
Technology, it's technology, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's raw alert. I received it as well. It says that the cases are increasing, so don't worry.
It got to me a little bit later, but it did. Okay, so getting back, we have to define the metrics that matter, because everyone is, as individuals and companies as individuals, are having its specifics that has to be taken care of. And also we have to build the trust and understand how data impacts our people. So if you don't have something else to complete here, Maria, we can move on to the next slide.
No, I think everybody knows here, and they faced, I think this is the slide that we all faced in Romania, Latvia, with the infrastructure, the flexible space, the hybrid work, and we talked about this for 2 years now, and again, there's a lot of expertise here, but at the end, as just a part of the entire industry.
We still sense a little bit of uncertainty and like scared to move on to this hybrid concept that seems really hard to understand from outside, but we have to start from somewhere. So companies will have to put the step and try to configure their hybrid specific from somewhere.
Yeah, and if we talk about technology in the workplace, I think there are so many areas in which, and they were all there. So it's not only about the office space, but as Corina was saying, it's half of the people will be at home. So technology to connect people at home with people at work, it's important. And all this was there, as we said, the technology existed, but it wasn't used as much as possible, but it actually is used now very, very much.
Okay, so moving on to the portfolio management, the key considerations to keep in mind would be that technology, data, and AI will continue to increase the efficiency and impact of portfolio management for investors and occupiers. The ability to manage space more efficiently would bring forward opportunities for new or alternative uses in previously underutilized space. And that personalized experiences and flexibility will be key to maintaining tenant and employee retention and maximizing portfolio utilization.
Yeah, here we need
Please.
to look at portfolio management, not only from the landlord perspective. Yeah, I have 10 buildings and I need to manage them and know exactly what's in there and what technologies are there and how I can more efficiently look at them. But we have to look at the portfolio of a client, meaning all the spaces that they have throughout Europe and how they can use those spaces maybe in Paris better by taking something from Romania, or in Romania better by taking some employees or some people from Paris and so on. So all this automation practically that it's necessary in the portfolio management, and of course it was there, yeah. So already we had robots that were scanning the leases and they were putting all the information in a database. Yeah, but that's only the beginning. Practically here all the new technologies and all these smart contracts and e-signature, we never used it before, at least in Romania. E-signature was like once a year. Now it's a day-to-day business. So again, it's a lot of things that we can use, and this is how to look at it.
Okay. The negotiation and closing processes are typically the lengthiest part of a real estate transaction, and where technology has so far made the least progress, in fact. So this is partly due to the unique interpersonal nature of the bidding and negotiation process. So in considering would be real estate capital markets are becoming more transparent, and this is a good fact. The influence of technology in acquisition process will also accelerate, and that deal execution can be improved with technology.
Yeah, I was looking on this slide, and I remember a talk that I had, I think it's 4 years now, with a client of mine, and he was telling me about blockchain. And and there's like, oh, and you will see this will become a very important thing. And I'm looking now at the slide that our colleagues from London did to put together the technology based, and I think blockchain system. And it's like, yeah, he was right, but he said that 4 years ago. And yeah, this practically the safety keeping of all these documents that are confidential, it's very important, and this technology is helping with that. And it's not only about having the key to our dressing, no, it's not dressing, to have a key to our lockers. It's, yeah, you can keep it safe online.
Okay, we can move on with the next slide.
When we are boring, stop us with questions, please.
Yeah.
It's just like, please stop us sometimes.
Yeah, duly recommended. For design and construction, 3D models show the future of a sustainable design. Advances in the technology used in design and construction will be increasingly important in addressing these challenges, as well as in how buildings are utilized and transacted. So key considerations to that. So a central integrated platform is critical to achieving the greatest value from a disparate collection of construction tech tools. In today's construction technology environment, virtual project monitoring tools have among the highest and fastest returns on investment. But in the same time, we have to be conscious about the fact that new construction techniques like modular construction or 3D printing are by far the most difficult implementation to get right yet.
So can we, Corina, can we build now 3D building? So that's what we are saying.
Not here, but in other parts of the world, they started to do that, really sporadic. But it's a fact that in the future will be even more and more common. So for the property and facilities operations, the shift towards greater user engagement and more intensive property management is gaining speed across asset classes.
I think here it's one of the most developed also in Romania. So here, if we talk about property and operation, I think we we all already have a lot of apps in this part of real estate. Sorry,
Okay.
to interrupt you.
So we have to identify the technology that generates actionable and relevant data to utilize. We have to choose among technologies the one that enables the remote work, and to find the right type of technology that keeps stakeholders empowered and informed. The famous talent attraction stereotype that it gets to us from any corner of discussion these days. We can move on if you don't have any other thing to complete. So the leasing and marketing, the tenant
That would be us.
expectation.
That would be us. No? So this is our part of the real estate.
The tenant expectations for seamless and personalized experience are evolving for a fact. We have to focus on data and process integration. And do not forget the fact that employees and consumers increasingly seek fluid living and working situations.
Here, because it's us, I would stop and tell you a little bit about our office in Madrid, and I think it's also in Paris, that we have, for example, a room in which we can do virtual site tours. So if we imagine, and 2005, I was taking my car at night, going to see the buildings before going with the clients, going to the clients and show them office spaces and look, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice. One day entirely, we were losing in traffic in Bucharest, showing buildings to them. Nowadays, my colleagues in Madrid, they're putting our very nice clients in a very, very nice room, offering them drinks and lunch. And they are doing the viewing tour of Madrid there, looking at all the buildings that were, filmed with drones. They have all the space plans, all the plans in the database, and any information that you would like to see, it's there. So gaining time, gaining information, and practically at the end of the meeting, you already have a short list of buildings that you prefer. So just to imagine this, and I think we should go to this direction, all these technologies are enabling us to save at the end of what I was telling, time, and also to reduce the carbon footprint, because we are not traveling with the car anymore.
So time effective, cost effective. If you were to make a speculation, when would you think we could benefit from this type of technology in Bucharest?
When it's cheaper. So that's the first, when it becomes cheaper, because a room like that is very expensive. But I think normally, when a new type of database or a new type of app was designed in the United States in Jones Lang, there were 5 years until that was coming into Romania, because we were at with fewer employees, so lower impact now I think it decreased in the last year, decreased to 2 years, and we can see it even in 1 year if it's really something important, because technology, it's easier to implement. Everybody, it's open, it's much more open to it. Because you have to imagine that the most important thing that I saw with my clients and with my colleagues is that it's not only the technology that it's important, it's how people are considering the importance of technology. You have every data in an Excel, and if you are used to it like that, and you are doing that for 10 years, to come with a very nice database that needs to be updated, and you need to do 5 steps in order to have all the information there. But you will get much more data if you put the information there and not in an Excel. Yeah, it's first a change of you. You have to be the first one to change. So it's not only implementing the technology, but you have to adapt to it and understand the benefits of it.
And to be open.
Next year. Hopefully next year.
Yeah. the resistance to change is absolutely normal, but if we're conscious about it and we are open to it, maybe we can find different ways to improve our lives and benefit
And I
from
think
it.
that's what the pandemic did. So practically, it just erased this block to technology, because you had to use it.
We are not scared of it anymore.
Yeah, that's it. This is what it's happening.
The new normal.
The new normal.
Okay. So I think we can move on to the next slide. For finance and valuations, also COVID.
The boring part. For me, no, I have very much respect for financial evaluation, because it needs a lot of talent and a lot of attention.
COVID-19 has triggered immediate pressures also in how investors source capital and finance assets, as travel restrictions in particular have hindered mobility. So the key considerations would be that technology is expanding the market liquidity, and that transparency will benefit operational efficiency and strategic decision-making. And also that the spectrum of accessible product will evolve as the market matures.
I think that's a very important point to finish with all these slides on all these areas of real estate and technologies. And I think it's important for the technology to be affordable at a certain point. And again, this is another thing that the pandemic opened a window to it, because everybody invested more, and therefore better solution with better price were put on the market. Just think about how, I think 6 or 7 years, because we were discussing about this in one of our meetings, the technology of LED light came to Romania, and there was the first building that wanted to put LED lights in on all the floors, especially on the tenants floor. We were, oh my God, this will be very expensive, because it was very expensive, and it was seen in the rent that was asked from tenants. And nowadays, if we look to the 6 years from that, to the technology of LED, it's almost the same price of a normal one, but it's even better because it resists more, consumes less. So this is what we are expecting to happen with all the technology and all these dots, because you see there are a lot of dots on each side of the real estate.
Okay.
I think Corina finished her
the layering. Yeah, we can move on to the next chapter.
And practically, this is the conclusion that I was telling you at the beginning of the presentation, because in 2015 in Paris, there was this Paris Agreement that they all established that it's very important to keep global warming to 1.5 to 2% of carbon. So it's degrees Celsius. I don't know why. And why it's that? Because at the end, what they want to get to, it's a 2050 net zero economy, and there are steps in between. Practically to reduce half of the emission in 2030. Then it will come a clear legislation about what is needed to be done in order to get there. It's said that in 2030 there will be a new EU Green Deal target. This is the target deadline for this EU deal, in order to establish all the context in order to get to 2050 to this net zero economy. And I was speaking with my colleague that it's a specialist on this side, and helps landlords and tenants to adapt their spaces in order to get to this goal by 2050. And he was telling, and I asked, like, why in 2050? So what's with this 2050, and why it's not being done now? Yeah, because you know how to do it. Why aren't we doing it? And his answer was simple, and it's related with what I was telling you just moment ago, at the end, a lot of the technology that will help us get into this net zero economy are still too expensive. And if we are talking about, for example, the batteries to keep the green energy, so to deposit the green energy from solar panels or for wind farms and so on, these are too expensive for the moment, and you need to get this energy directly into to be consumed, and you can't store it actually because it's too expensive to do that. And we are expecting new technology towards going to 2050 in order to get to this net zero economy. The next slide.
So sorry, maybe it would be good to mention here that even though the legislation is not yet in place, the majority of the landlords will want to make their assets and their built environment more appealing to the customers, because the customers will look in the future only to these kind of assets.
And practically this is what the next slide is saying, because why we need to do this, because at the end it's tenants would look at it, investors would look at it, then everyone would want to reduce the cost of operation and the managing of a property, even tenants and landlords together. And then of course the energy platforms and they're also part of this. So we need to understand, for example, if you are a tenant now, I don't know, I think I've seen this question from 2 of my clients saying that we need to include green lease clauses in their contracts. And this is not a thing that it's normally done in Romania, not even in all other countries of Europe, but it's a thing that will go forward and we need to look at it. This will impact practically the way that the building is built. Then an investor that wants to to buy a building right now, it would look at the technology that the building has, because they will take it to keep it until maybe 2050, and then or maybe 2030 when the legislation will be in place, and then the building decreases in value if they don't have the technologies or a strategy to implement this technology into the building. Then we have to look at our colleagues from valuation department, that now when they are evaluating a building or a land or an apartment, they have a separate Excel line where they have to put an estimation of the cost of this ESG and this technologies, or this how this building can get to the final goal of 2050. So yeah, I think it's an interesting trend, and we've seen the first, and I was happy to see that 2 days ago, after we had a conference about the subject, I've seen the first landlord in Bucharest that declared that has 100% green energy in all the buildings, which just tells me that this is the trend. And if we go to the next slide, I think we don't have more, so don't worry. And this is what I was telling you about earlier, so we can skip it. It's about why from customer to investor, and why to look at this and why to have it in mind. One key takeaway from this subject would be that BREEAM or LEED or green building is not anymore enough. So if we are to look at 5 to 10 years from now, we have to look at more than that. So we have to have an asset with carbon neutral by 2050, and this doesn't mean that it only has to be green. Yeah, I think it's hard for us to imagine now, another 30 years from now, how the real estate will look in Romania, how our city will look in 30 years, or how our space would look in 30 years. But at least we have a goal, and to achieve it, we need to start now. And we think we need to, as consultants, as tenants, as landlords, as lawyers, as furniture providers or any other entity that is present in this conference, we need to look at this because it's coming. And I need to drink a glass of water. So please, I see a question. So.
Also, something to complement here is that it's really nice to see that many of the organizations and companies are trying to make room for a sustainability officer in their organigram, and they're paying attention to this perspective, and this is nice to see.
So I have a question here from Costin saying, what is the most promising technology available now in Romania that we can implement immediately? We are talking about office space or your space. If I can tell you that there are different technology that you can implement on different office space in your own office space. Yes, okay. I think if you look to your own office space, the easiest one are maybe there. For example, a thing that will help a lot is the LED technology. Yeah, the change of a better HVAC system that it's better performing. Then if we look to the entire building and together with it, you can use solar panels. You can put and add to the rooftop of your building or to the rooftop of your warehouse. And this is another subject that is very interesting and we can discuss one because that's a lot of warehouse space around Bucharest that we can use actually for this kind of projects. So there are simple facts that are now available. The technology is there, and this can reduce a lot the consumption that we have. Of course, if we go into more details, we can have better building management system, better sensors to lighting, opening and closing, and we have that now. Better sensors at the windows. When we close or open the window, the air conditioning should stop or start. And these are only on the saving of energy. But if we are talking about, as I said, the footprint, the carbon footprint, we have to think more, not only to our office space, but then what happens with our waste. Yeah, so it's in our space, but how can we help there to reduce the carbon footprint? And then you saw that in the last years, a lot of the companies just really are recycling in their office space. And these are easy ones. Then the sensors to the water to not waste water in the toilets, a smaller water tank in the toilets again to help with that. So there are so many that theoretically sounds easy and theoretically everybody knows about it, but actually if you go to an office space and in your building, not all of them are there. I don't know if it answered your question or there's another subject if we talk about safety and COVID, and then it's then we have sensors to open doors, sensors to everything, not to touch surface. So this is a very important trend in the office industry, not to touch. So don't touch. Don't touch each other. Don't touch. So, don't touch anything.
Also, the sensors connected to the hybrid work, where we are trying to find out what is the best solution and implement the infrastructure to be able to know when we can go to the office and build our way of being hybrid, let's say. Yeah. So I would say that it is a matter of changing perspective, and that every one of us, like individuals, could contribute to this, maybe by not printing so much or by taking care of our individual really close around us space.
Yeah, but just look carefully if you sign a lease, what are the clauses and what condition can you add to the landlord in order to be better, to be more efficient? Then look at your space and look at your budget and do stuff accordingly, but you can still do stuff. Doesn't matter if you have a small budget or a big one. So yeah, at a certain point we will be obliged, but if we do it now, I think it's just better. So I think this was the goal of our call today and our speech today. It was like, however, at a certain point we'll be obliged. We don't have any more plastic straws, so you know, it's coming.
It's like a call to action.
Let's be for first time, just be ahead of the wave. And so there are so many departments where we can do it.
I'm looking here. There's no other question for the moment.
We have 5 more minutes, so if you have any other question, please. If not, I was happy to be with Corina in our first conference together. So
thank you, Maria.
Thank you,
Really
Corina,
supportive.
for this. And first of all, thank you all for making time, because I know it's difficult in this all technology to just stay in front of still stay in front of the computer. Hopefully next year we will see each other in person.
Yeah.
With some high heels that you can see. Andrea,
Okay.
we can wrap it up. Or
yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.